Where to live in the greater Colorado Springs area? Now that's a hard question to answer. It's hard enough if you live in Colorado Springs, let alone if you're moving from out of state or out of town. But don't worry, I got you covered. We're gonna go through every single major area in Colorado Springs. We're gonna do it in a two-part series. We're gonna talk about schools, what neighborhoods there are, a little bit of real estate information, local businesses, and what makes that area unique and special. My name is Chris Berisford. I own the Berisford Group here in Colorado Springs. And just real quick before we jump into the first area, why the heck should you even listen to me? I've lived in Colorado Springs for about 20 years now. I've been in the real estate business for about 15 years, so I know Colorado Springs extremely well. I've lived in the foothills on the west side of town. I've lived out east on the plains, and currently I live up in Blackforest, so I've lived across all of Colorado Springs as well. So the first area we're gonna talk about today is Tri-Lakes. Now what we're gonna do is we're just gonna start at the northern part of the county and we're gonna work our way down through Colorado Springs. Now yes, some of the areas we talk about aren't actually in the city limits of Colorado Springs, but everybody kind of calls it Colorado Springs. So I'll say the greater Colorado Springs area. And like I said, we're gonna start with the area number one, Tri-Lakes. So the Tri-Lakes area is the far northern part of the area we're gonna talk about. The northern boundary of it is County Line Road, and the southern boundary of it, and these are kind of a little bit subjective, obviously, but the southern boundary of it, I would say is kind of down to Baptist Road, goes over west of the foothills up against the Air Force Academy, and then to the east goes all the way over to what is kind of the Blackforest area. And a little bit of the Tri-Lakes is kind of in Blackforest too. All right, so first, let's talk about the major neighborhoods in the Tri-Lakes area. Now, I'm just gonna pop up Google Maps here, and I'm just gonna chat through this with you to make sure you guys get all the information you need. The Tri-Lakes area, again, is this area up north. This is the boundary right here with County Line Road. Now you can see the major towns, if you will, that you see are Palmer Lake and Monument. So those are actually small municipalities. So again, not Colorado Springs proper, these are separate municipalities. So those are kind of the two main, I guess we'll say, cities. And then within that area, there's a ton of different neighborhoods. So let's zoom in a little bit here. So again, Palmer Lake up here, and there is a lake in Palmer Lake, as the name would tell you. Monument right here, and then you have a big area up here that's called Woodmore. Woodmore was a neighborhood largely built, kind of started in the 80s, so it's some acreage lots. You might have like 1 to 2.5 acres in Woodmore. Here you have Kings Deer, which is a golf course community. It's kind of, there's not a lot of trees in Kings Deer. It's pretty out in the open. There's a couple lots that have some trees on the southern boundary of it. And then south of Monument, the city, as you go down towards Baptist Road, these are all neighborhoods that have been filled in. So you have Sanctuary Point, which is a great neighborhood that's in the trees of Blackforest. And then you have this big area that's really the Jackson Creek Parkway is what this road is right here. So you have housing developments along Jackson Creek Parkway as well. And then if you go over on the west side of I-25, you actually have some neighborhoods that are over here. This is Forest Lakes, this neighborhood right here. This is a little bit newer neighborhood, so started probably, I'd say about 5 years ago maybe, and then they're just finishing up some builds on the far backside of it. The West Valley is what they call it over here. And you also have a little bit of mix of some commercial space as well. So this area, like I said, largely known as the Tri-Lakes area. The reason they call it Tri-Lakes is because you have Palmer Lake, Monument Lake, and then there's also this Woodmore Lake right here. So 3 lakes, Tri-Lakes makes sense, right? All of the Tri-Lakes area, it's all in School District 38, which is, do your own research, of course, but if you check out niche.com, greaterschools.org, District 38 is a very highly rated school district, not just in El Paso County, but in Colorado as a whole. So a lot of folks actually want to live in this area just because of the school district. A great thing about Tri-Lakes, for me personally, is the recreation opportunities that you have. So like I mentioned, the lakes, there's not a lot of water along the Colorado foothills. So whenever there is some water, it's a pretty nice big feature. So Forest Lake's down here, only to be used by people that are residents there. You can't swim in it. You can paddleboard or kayak in it. But that's about it. But it's a nice lake, hiking trail around it, stuff like that. Monument Lake is super beautiful. When you look over the lake, you can actually look at the foothills. It's just a beautiful landscape. You know, you can go down there, you can fish. Again, you can't swim in it, but you can paddleboard, kayak, all that stuff. Super busy in the summertime for obvious reasons. And then Palmer Lake is a little bit, it's cool because it's almost like right in town as well. But again, it's kind of the same thing. You can fish up there, paddleboard, kayak, just hang out by the water. So those are a big draw. Now, Woodmore Lake over here, it's not quite as big of a draw recreationally. You really can't do anything there. You can go look at it, and there's a little trail that kind of walks around it. But it's not nearly as popular as these other 3 lakes here on the west side of I-25. Another great thing about the Tri-Lakes area is if you go to the west just a little bit, so you can see where everything turns green on Google Maps, that's all national forest. So you go to the edge of Monument and you drive maybe 2 minutes past the edge of town and you're in the national forest. There's great hiking trails, and actually it's really popular for mountain biking too. So you have the Mount Herman trailhead over there. Balance Rock is a pretty cool hike. And if you want, you can actually even take back roads all the way up to Rampart Range Road, which is outside of Woodland Park right here. So there's some good 4-wheel drive roads over there as well. So just all the national forest right at the edge of town is pretty freaking cool. And then if you go the other way to the east side of the Tri-Lakes area, you're actually super close to Fox Run Regional Park, which we're going to talk about more whenever we talk about the Blackforest and Northgate area. But Fox Run Regional Park, huge regional park. There's a ton of trails there. There's, playgrounds for kids. There's pavilions you can rent out for picnics with the family, all kinds of stuff. So recreationally, there's a ton of stuff to do right in Tri-Lakes, but then you're also super close to a lot of other stuff. And one of the big benefits, I would say, and it kind of ties into recreation too, for the Tri-Lakes area is that you're close to Denver. You're right, like I said, you're right at the county line road. And when we say county line road, I should probably explain that. We're talking about El Paso County, where Colorado Springs is, and Douglas County. That's just the county that's straight to the north of us. So to get from Monument up to downtown Denver, I would say it's probably maybe 40 minutes, something like that. So if you want to go to a Broncos game, an Avalanche game, Nuggets game, if you want to go to the ballet downtown, whatever it is, you're super close compared to if you're kind of in the heart of Colorado Springs proper. So local businesses, this is another thing that I'm going to try to cover for each area today because I just think it's cool to know what places are nice to go to. I'm also going to say most of the local businesses I talk about, you're going to find out are going to be food places, food or drink places, because that's just kind of what I know the most about, I guess. If we zoom in a little bit here, the main street of Monument has kind of this little tiny downtown area that's starting to kind of get some revitalization, I guess, if you will. And there's a couple cool local businesses right on at 2nd Street in Monument. So there's the Bistro on 2nd, which is a great little restaurant. And it's a bistro, right? So it's, a little bit pricier, but the food's really, really good. There's a tapas bar right next to that as well. It's owned by the same folks. So right down the road, still on 2nd, you have a bookstore. It's Covered Treasures Bookstore. So it's been there forever, but it's just kind of what you would think of like a small town, quaint little bookstore. It's pretty cool. It's not, like Barnes & Noble or anything like that, but it's a pretty cool little place. Blackforest Deli is right across the street from the bookstore. Super good hamburgers if you want to check that out. All right, so let's talk about real estate in the Tri-Lakes area. It's definitely not the cheapest place in Colorado Springs or the greater Colorado Springs area. Now, what I want to do is I'm going to go through some statistics. So I'm going to check these out here real quick, because I'm going to give you the same stats for all these different areas so you can kind of get a picture of, oh, okay, yeah, that's maybe I get a little bit more bang for my buck there, but I see what the difference in the kind of the housing is. So the stats we're going to go over, median sales price in the Tri-Lakes area is $784,000. So that's median, almost average. We're going to say median sales price. The max price, and these are going to be for the last 6 months. So the max price of a sale in the Tri-Lakes area is $2 million. And then the minimum price was $365,000. Now, what I'll tell you with these minimum prices we talk about today, almost all of those are likely going to be townhomes or condos. And then as we get out to some of the more rural areas, I'll kind of explain what those sales probably look like there too. Average price per square foot. I like this indicator because it kind of gives you an idea of again, your bang for your buck. How big of a house do you get for a certain price point? So average price per square foot for houses in this area, $240 a square foot. And then just some other details about the housing, kind of what type of house there is. What do these properties look like? So age of homes in Tri-Lakes are going to vary a lot. There's still new construction happening right now in some of the areas. Cloverleaf is a neighborhood up there that a builder called David Weekly Homes is building. We've had a couple clients buy up there. That's brand new construction that's in the Tri-Lakes area. And then you have older homes on the west side of I-25, some of these 5-acre parcels that have been late 70s, early 80s when this was a really rural area. And then that neighborhood Woodmore that I mentioned earlier, that neighborhood, a lot of it is 80s built, 80s, early 90s. I'm trying to think. There's actually some homes that are a little bit older than that in there too, actually, even pre-80s. But a lot of the homes in there are 80s. And again, those are on like 1 acre lots. You're in the trees, so you feel like you're kind of just in a more rural setting. But there's also those planned developments, like I mentioned, the new build one, where it's kind of just what you think of a normal subdivision. So you have houses, pretty close to each other. And again, 2000s build up to new construction right now. So that's kind of the housing that you see in the Tri-Lakes area. And to wrap up Tri-Lakes overall, what makes it special and unique? I would say just the recreation and the fact that you're not in Colorado Springs proper. So you've got this quaint little town of Monument, which is pretty cool. You've got great proximity if you need to commute up to Denver or down to Colorado Springs, like to go downtown. You've got you have the Black Forest right there. So you just kind of feel like you're in this Colorado rural setting. And you have the awesome recreation of Palmer Lake and Monument Lake and the National Forest right at your doorstep too. Area number 2 we're going to talk about is the Black Forest area. Now, this is a large area and the boundaries of it are kind of subjective. And it's not like this is definitively the exact boundaries, but I think this will give you a good idea of where it's at. So on the north is going to be County Line Road. On the east side is a road, it's called Eastonville. And then on the south side, it's really the boundary between Falcon, another area we're going to talk about, and then kind of Colorado Springs proper and some of the sub areas of Colorado Springs. And on the west side, it's going to butt up against Tri-Lakes, the area we just talked about, and then also the Northgate area, which is right along Highway 83, and then Powers Boulevard, which is Highway 21. So the Black Forest area, now I got to admit, I got a little bit of a soft spot for Black Forest because that's where I currently live. It's a more rural area. So when we talk about neighborhoods in Black Forest, there are some planned neighborhoods for sure, but a lot of Black Forest it's just rural. So it's 5 acre plus lots to a large extent. Most of the properties are going to be on a well and a septic. And the age range of the homes out there, I mean, it's all over the place. There's literally log homes from the turn of the century, 1900 or before, all the way up to new construction right now and kind of everything in between. So when we talk about neighborhoods, just so if you're doing some research, you kind of have a little bit of an idea of where these things are at. So the Black Forest area, so here's that County Line Road we talked about. Here's Eastonville, down to Falcon, around to Highway 21 and Highway 83. So this big area is what we're talking about. So you do, like I said, you do have some planned developments. There's High Forest Ranch, who is at the corner of Hodgen and 83. That's a gated community. You got Flying Horse North, which is a community it was started to be developed about probably 5 years ago, and they're rezoning it right now and replotting it. So there's no new construction or very little right now, but there will be. There's a golf course. There's going to be a new clubhouse, things like that. So this big area right here is Flying Horse North. You have Cathedral Pines, which is in this area right here. As you can see, the green's the treed area. In this area where it's not treed, there's still some sporadic trees, but where it's green on Google Maps, that's like the thick part of the pine trees. So those are some of the newer neighborhoods you have on the western edge of Black Forest. And then there's other neighborhoods kind of mixed within Black Forest. Wildwood is one of them that you'll see that's a pretty big neighborhood. But when I say neighborhood, it's not like it's your, shaking hands out of the, with the house next to you through the kitchen window. These are 5 acre lots that a lot of these developments are. So again, just think more rural setting than what you are in any other area around the greater Colorado Springs area. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the schools. Black Forest is maybe not totally unique, but one thing about it is that it encompasses multiple school districts. So on the east side, over here towards Falcon and north, it's District 49. And then on the west side of it, it's School District 20. And then interestingly enough, on this northwest portion of Black Forest, it's actually District 38, which is the same school district that we just talked about with Tri-Lakes and that Monument area. So you actually have 3 different school districts that you might be within, even though you're living in Black Forest. So there's a little bit of uniqueness to that. Now, I'm going to put a plug in here right now for a video that Kim did previously that was about school choice. So you can learn all about how you can opt into different schools. So if you want to be in Black Forest, you find a sweet house, but you really don't like that school district, you definitely have some options. So other than schools, let's go to recreation, because I personally think that for Blackforest being as far, relatively far east as it is away from the mountains, the recreation is one of the best things about it. Now, again, these are typically more rural properties, so you probably have a lot of recreation on your property. I know for myself and my family, you know, my son rides his four-wheeler around our property. We kind of just, a lot of the recreation that we do is just on our property. But you have other options too. So there's some big regional parks and open spaces. So if we kind of start on the west side of it, you have Fox Run Regional Park. So we're going to talk more about this because this is technically, I would say, in the Northgate area because it's on that west side of Highway 83. But Fox Run Regional Park is a huge regional park. You have Blackforest Regional Park down here, which is a very large park, has a huge athletic field, just kind of big open space. You can rent it to, you know, for soccer leagues or flag football, whatever you want to do. There's some pavilions there. They also have some tennis/pickleball courts and a lot of running trails, walking trails that go through the forest. Now, one thing about Blackforest Regional Park that, just so you're not surprised if you ever go visit it, is the Blackforest fire that happened about 10 or 11 years ago now burnt through a lot of that county-owned space. So now it's largely becoming reclaimed. So, you know, there's natural grasses and all that stuff growing, but it's not the deep forest that it used to be before the fire. But they did save a lot of kind of all those structures that I talked about earlier in the fields. All that area is just like it was before the fire. So there's still a lot of area and a lot of trails that go through the trees too. So that's the Blackforest Regional Park. In this area right here, it doesn't come up on the map, but there's another area. It's this section right here. It's called Section 16. So back in the day in Colorado, might be this way in other states too, they would save Section 16 when they were plotting out, I guess, westward expansion, if you will. And that would be saved for schools and recreation. So this area right here is just a mile square and it's just open space. The middle of it, it's kind of fenced off a little bit, so you really don't go into the middle part of it, but there's a trail that goes around the edge of it. So you're in the forest, it kind of goes, you know, it's got some cool rolling hills, and then you just kind of twist them through the trees, and it's a roughly 4 mile loop that goes around it. I go there and run and hike a lot. It's super pretty. And then just north of that on Vollmer Road, you have this Pineries open space. I can't remember off the top of my head how many acres it is, but it's a huge space, and there's a ton of trails that go through the Pineries open space as well. So that's another county regional park or open space. And again, all these are within probably a 10-minute drive of anywhere in Blackforest. So you've got a ton of options for recreation right in Blackforest. And then the Blackforest area, another thing about it is it's a kind of one of the, I would say probably one of the two main equestrian kind of areas where you have a lot of horse properties in the greater Colorado Springs area. So there's a lot of horse boarding places in Blackforest, and I know there's even a handful of places where if you want to go ride for a day, you can pay for it, of course, but you can go do some equestrian stuff as well. So that's a pretty cool thing about Blackforest. All right, now let's hit on the local businesses in Blackforest. So there is actually a small commercial space right in the center of Blackforest, right here where it says Blackforest. There's a handful of things in there. Now, it's not like, don't think it's a city or anything, and it's nothing like Monument. It's literally kind of two intersections and then some stores right at those two intersections. So there's a gas station that actually has a really good barbecue place attached to it. It's called Firehouse Barbecue. That's really good. There's Blackforest Pizza and Grinders. I'm a big fan of Blackforest Pizza. Let's see what else is there. There's Blackforest Brewing. I personally think it's the best brewery around, just personal opinion. It's run by a husband and wife couple. They're retired military officers, and they spent some time in Germany, so they brew a lot of German beers, which is probably my favorite. So you've got Blackforest Brewing. There's the Chicken Coop, which is another little bar right there in Blackforest proper. And then you've got Mountain View Cafe, which just moved to where it used to be another coffee shop, another cafe, but Mountain View Cafe, I think the food's super good. And again, just being right in Blackforest, you don't have to drive all the way into Colorado Springs, if you want to go, get some breakfast or whatever. So Mountain View Cafe is really cool. And then there is a bistro, a small little bistro right in Blackforest as well. It's called Blackforest Bistro. Been there a handful of times. I think it's pretty good. So in Blackforest, right at that little kind of commercial spot that I just talked about, that I'm kind of highlighting on the map right here, that's where you'll find all those places in Blackforest. Now, probably from what I've said, you can probably get the idea that it's probably pretty desirable. There's a pretty good demand for Blackforest. So let's talk a little bit about the housing situation out there, because it's not the least expensive. And especially with the amount of demand that there's been recently for Blackforest. So let's just go over these stats. Again, I'm going to cover the same ones that I did for Tri-Lakes just so we hit all the same points. Median price for a home, $890,000. Now, again, you've got to remember, a lot of these properties have a lot of land with them. So you might be buying, 2 acres, 5 acres, 20 acres. So $890,000 is the median price point. The max price was $5 million and the minimum price of $358,000. Now, let me talk about that a little bit. There aren't any townhomes or condos really in Blackforest. So that minimum price, my thought would tell me that it was probably more of a, like a modular or a trailer, older, that was on a smaller portion of land and probably kind of just needed to be scraped off. That's what I would say that sale probably was. And then the $5 million sale, it was definitely a custom home, probably on a little bit larger acreage. So those homes that are over $2 million are typically homes that are on, 5 plus, a lot of times 10 or 20 acres plus, and they're larger custom homes, some horse properties, things of that nature. So that's a pretty big spread from $380,000 to $5 million. But I would say that median we talked about, $890,000, that makes a lot of sense, because I typically tell people, if you want to get into Blackforest, unfortunately nowadays you're going to have to be pretty close to that 7-figure mark to get something pretty decent. And then the other point is that price per square foot, it's $280 per square foot. So that's definitely going to be on the higher end of the per square footage basis. Again, it kind of just makes a lot of sense because you probably have a chunk of land that's coming with that as well. So it just kind of makes that square footage price look a little bit skewed. And then we talked a little bit about the types of homes out there, the fact that there's stuff that was turn of the century all the way up to brand new construction. I would say, as I think about it, probably largely most of the homes in Blackforest are probably 80s or 90s construction. Like I said, there's stuff that was built way before that, and there's still new construction happening right now. But a majority of it, I feel like, is in that kind of that 80s, 90s build. A lot of custom homes, like I mentioned a handful of times already. Homes are going to be on some acreage, probably 1 acre is about the smallest thing that you're going to find in Blackforest, and that's going to be in one of those developments that we kind of talked about. But a lot of the places are going to be 5 acres or more. 5 acres is a number that comes out pretty often because when parcels got divided up, when Blackforest is kind of being developed, a lot of these neighborhoods were split into 5-acre parcels. So you'll see a lot of that. And then the newer neighborhoods that we kind of talked about, a lot of those will be 2.5-acre lots. The big reason that kind of drives that is 2.5 acres is the minimum amount in Colorado you need to put a well on it. And again, this is a rural area, so all these homes, vast majority of them are going to be on private well and septic systems. So that's why you see 2.5 acres even for the new developments. All right, so what makes Blackforest unique and special? Now, like I said, I've lived all over Colorado Springs, and I chose to buy land and build a home in Blackforest. I love it because you're right up against Colorado Springs, but you feel like you're a million miles from everything. You're deep in the trees. It feels like Colorado. It's also a little bit higher altitude. So my house, for example, is right at about 7,400 feet. So that's about almost 1,500 feet higher than what it is in downtown Colorado Springs. So it's definitely a higher elevation. It just feels more like Colorado. That's all I can say. You've got, when it snows a little bit more. The snow stays a little bit longer than it does in town. And it just has that rural Colorado feel. But like I said, you're literally 15 minutes, sometimes less, to anything that you need, depending on what part of Blackforest you live in. Before we get started on the next major area here in the Colorado Springs market, I want to let you guys know that we actually have a very detailed relocation guide that we've put together for anybody that's thinking about moving to Colorado Springs. The map that you see behind me right now that we've been referencing all day is directly from our relocation guide. So if you're headed this way, definitely hit us up, get that download so you've got all the info you need about Colorado Springs. All right, the next area, Northgate. So again, we're working our way from north to south down through the greater Colorado Springs area. So Northgate, the boundaries, and again, these really aren't truly defined, but it's largely what the locals would say, is you have I-25 on the west side or even the Air Force Academy. And then on the north side, Baptist Road, that was that south boundary of the Tri-Lakes Monument area we talked about. So you've got Baptist Road, goes over to Highway 83, and this is kind of where the western boundary is, kind of butts up against that Blackforest area. Curves down, and then Highway 21, which is Powers Boulevard. As you're kind of doing some research, you'll see it as Powers Boulevard. And then down to Old Ranch Road. So this is the area that we're talking about that is known as Northgate. So what neighborhoods are in that greater Northgate area? So up top here, you've got Glen Eagle. Glen Eagle is, I think it's a pretty cool community. It was originally a golf course community built largely, I would say, probably in the 80s. And the golf course went defunct a number of years ago, and through, several different turns of trying to figure out what to do with it, the golf course land was sold, and they actually built new houses on those old fairways, which obviously didn't make a lot of people happy, but some people got really nice brand new houses in a really cool area because you've got amazing views looking to the west over towards the Front Range and over the Air Force Academy. So Glen Eagle's got really cool views. It's just a really nice area. This area, kind of this portion right here, this tan area, this is Sun Hills, and kind of just, it doesn't really have like a real specific name. This is Roller Coaster Road right here. But Sun Hills is this area, and these properties vary from an acre to 5 acres, and it's not really in the pine trees or kind of sporadically in the pine trees, but it's in a lot of scrub oak. So that's kind of what you see the terrain look like, is a lot of scrub oak. It's not just open prairie by any means. So you still get a lot of vegetation, and houses kind of get tucked in there and kind of, hidden, so you feel like you have more elbow room. So I think the Sun Hills area is really cool. As you come south, this is Northgate Boulevard. So this is a major interchange off of I-25, goes over to Highway 83. The big thing about this is Flying Horse. Man, Flying Horse was started in the early 2000s, and it was a beautiful master plan community. It's just about all built out. The final filing is all the way down here, and they're just about ready to wrap up those houses right now. So you've got a beautiful golf course, clubhouse, huge community center, indoor-outdoor pool. It's been rated the #1 community in Colorado Springs for, just years and years running. It is a beautiful community. As you can probably imagine, we're going to talk about here in a little bit, not the cheapest place to live, but Flying Horse is a gorgeous community. As you come down Voyager Parkway, as you kind of work your way south through Northgate, number of neighborhoods. Up here right on Northgate, you have Northgate Highlands, Northgate Estates. As you come a little bit farther south, this is some commercial development all in this area. But as you come farther south of that, you're going to have homes on both sides, neighborhoods on both sides of Voyager. You have Stonewater, which is kind of a pocket neighborhood right here, and then Stone Crossing, which kind of goes up the hill. So up on the top part of Stone Crossing, some large homes, amazing views, that kind of thing. It's beautiful. And as you work your way down Voyager, you go past some more commercial, and then you have a newer community. It's called The Farm. So The Farm was built, I want to say it probably started in 2014, 15, maybe something like that, maybe a little bit later. But it's a cool area because it's a mix of custom homes and some production homes, so the lot size is kind of vary a good bit too. And then as you go on down towards Old Ranch Road, this area right here, it's pretty neat because on this west side of Voyager, between Voyager and I-25, there's actually some older homes from like the 70s and 80s that are on like 2+ acres of land. So you're right on I-25. You have this, kind of more dense development around you, but you still have like some acreage lots kind of mixed in there that were, built, decades ago. So that's kind of the real quick run through of the neighborhoods about that are inside Northgate. A draw to Northgate for a lot of people, it's the school district, and it's District 20. District 20, I know we kind of mentioned it earlier real briefly, but if you look again, ditch.com, greaterschools.org, whatever website you want to go check out, District 20 is, again, not only one of the most highly rated school districts in our local area, but also statewide as well. So it's called the Academy School District 20, and that encompasses all of Northgate. On the recreation side, again, Northgate's got a pretty cool location because this park that I kind of alluded to a couple times, Fox Run Regional Park, this park right here, it's a beautiful park. It's in the thick pine trees. There are some fields and open space, athletic fields. You can go throw the Frisbee, whatever you want to do. There's multiple playground areas for kids to hang out. There's some pavilions you can rent for birthday parties, stuff like that. So Foxhorn Regional Park is super cool. Like you really feel like you're getting into the mountains and getting away from everything, and it's 5 minutes from your house probably. So Foxhorn Regional Park's right there. We kind of talked a little bit about the recreational stuff at Flying Horse. As you can imagine, that's for folks that live there or members only if you want to, golf or use the community center. The other thing that I personally like and take advantage of, but I understand not everyone could. So part of my background is I was an officer in the Army for a number of years. So my wife's retired from the military. So we still have access to bases. So we actually go onto the Air Force Academy. And the Air Force Academy it has some awesome running and mountain bike trails on it. It has a couple of lakes on the west side of it that you can actually go fish at. So it's pretty cool. So if you have access to the Air Force Academy, it's actually a pretty cool place to go for recreation as well. Again, I understand not everyone would be able to do that. So continuing on the recreation vein, if you will, we mentioned Blackforest Regional Park earlier. You can see how close you are just right over Shoup Road. So super fast to get over to Blackforest Regional Park. And I think one of the other things that we'll kind of talk about as we go through these areas more is just the close proximity to all the parks across Colorado Springs, and a lot of those that are on the west side in the foothills. So if you're living in Northgate, you can jump on I-25, you go 5 minutes north and you're up at Monument Lake, you go kayaking up there, or you could drive 10 minutes south and jump off on Rock Rimmon, and you could bomb over to Ute Valley Park, and you're in a park that's literally in the foothills of the Rocky Mountains. So just the proximity to these big parks and things to do, that's just one of the best things about Colorado Springs overall. But for these northern areas, it's good proximity to I-25, which gets you to these places super fast. So that's recreation on what I would call the outdoor side, but there's also indoor recreation too. A key thing about the Northgate area is it's one of the most rapidly developing areas in the greater Colorado Springs area. So a lot of that is commercial development. It's not just housing, it's a lot of commercial. So one thing that you may research and maybe even find some controversy about, but is the Ford Amphitheater. So it's a huge, I don't know if huge is the right word. It's a relatively large outdoor amphitheater. It's got a beautiful view because all of the seating looks to the west. So if you look past the stage, you're just staring at the Rocky Mountains, which is pretty cool. There's some big names that have started to get booked up there. I know the 2025 season's already fully booked out, and there's actually some pretty cool acts coming this year. So Ford Amphitheater is a big thing for recreation. And then just the commercial stuff that's right around this InterQuest and Voyager section right here. You've got Air City. So if kids want to go jump on trampolines and get crazy, they can do that. If they want to go shoot darts at each other, Dart Wars is up there. Shields is a huge outdoor store. I won't lie. I drive by Shields every day going home, and I probably go in there a little bit too much, but it doesn't matter what kind of recreational thing you're into. If it's just hiking, if it's lacrosse, hockey, golf, hunting, I mean, just pick a sport, whatever it is, any kind of outdoor recreation or indoor recreation, Shields is now kind of the go-to place in Colorado Springs. And they even have a big Ferris wheel inside, so your kids can ride the Ferris wheel if they want to. So this whole area right here, there's just a ton of commercial development that's going on. And also another one I got to mention too, up here in the Northgate area in Voyager, there's a place called Overdrive. So you can drive go-karts. It's 2 stories. It's pretty cool. They're not like slow go-karts either. It's a pretty fun time. So when it comes to Northgate, recreation isn't just about outside stuff. There's a ton of indoor stuff to do as well if you live in the Northgate area. All right, now what does it cost to live in Northgate? That's obviously a tough question, right? So median home price, $675,000. That's actually not too bad. Knowing the area, that's not too bad. And I think, I'll tell you right now, I think what's driving a lot of that is there's some newer construction in this area called Victory Ridge, which is right here at InterQuest and Voyager. And they're actually starting to build some townhomes in there. And I think those townhome prices being in like the 500s has kind of helped bring down that median price point a little bit overall for Northgate. So again, median price, $675,000, max price of $4 million and a minimum price of $350,000. I would say that max price of $4 million is probably up in that. It's going to be in Flying Horse. There are subsections of Flying Horse that are actually gated communities, and it's all custom homes, and they kind of have different ranges too. So there's like a gated area that's down low, kind of right off of Northgate Boulevard. And then there's high up on the bluff, there's some other gated communities with some extremely nice homes. So I'm not surprised that there's been a $4 million sale in there. In the $350,000 sale, I'm guessing that was probably a townhome that's kind of in that Victory Ridge area, or maybe even there's another little section of a little bit older townhomes as well. And I'm willing to bet that was probably a townhome sale for $350,000. Price per square foot, $230 per square foot. So that's pretty comparable with a lot of the other northern Colorado Springs areas. So $230 per foot. And the age of Northgate, again, like a lot of parts in town, it just varies a lot. But majority of the homes are going to be 2000s built. So a lot of these neighborhoods were built in the early 2000s and have finished out, around maybe like 2015-ish, something like that, or even maybe a little bit earlier. And then you have Flying Horse, like I said, a huge master plan community that started early 2000s, and they're still building in it right now, but they're just about to finish. So most of the homes are going to be in that 2000s build, with some exceptions in there. We kind of talked about those older homes in Glen Eagle, older homes over in that Sun Hills area, and then that little tiny sliver kind of between Voyager and I-25 where there's some older homes in there that are all on just a little bit of acreage. So you can find really kind of whatever type of home you're looking for. I would say there's a wide enough variance in Northgate. You could probably find the type of house that you're looking for. So what makes Northgate unique and special? I would say that it's really the development that just kind of what sets it apart from a lot of other parts of Colorado Springs. Everybody knows, like, as cities grow and expand, you kind of have the new on the outside, and then the older stuff kind of gets, is in the middle. And then you have some revitalization, which we're going to talk about when we hit downtown Colorado Springs. But the new stuff right now is largely in the Northgate area. All those indoor recreation places I talked about, just a lot of shops and dining, a lot of new stuff in the Northgate area. So I think that's probably what's different than a lot of other places. Now, who would want to live there and like kind of what makes it special? I personally think it's just, you're getting really nice homes. You've got a lot of recreation opportunities really close by, and it's really good proximity to Denver because you're so close to I-25 still, or down to Colorado Springs. But you just don't feel like you're quite as much like in the middle of all the hustle and bustle. It just feels not quite as, I don't want to say not claustrophobic, that sounds bad, but it just doesn't feel as busy as what it does when you get more down into the heart of Colorado Springs. So if you like just a little bit slower pace, although that pace is changing for sure with all the commercial development, and you just want to be closer to some of that recreation stuff, I think it could be a good fit. Now, while you guys have listened to me talk a lot about Colorado Springs today, I want to let you know also that it's not just me. As a real estate sales team here in Colorado Springs, we've got multiple people on our team that help assist buyers and sellers every single day. So if you're thinking about a move here to Colorado Springs, definitely realize that it's not just me that you have the chance to work with. All right, the next area I want to talk about is one of the fastest growing areas in the Colorado Springs market, and that's the Falcon area. So Falcon is east of Colorado Springs, and it used to be kind of it felt far removed from Colorado Springs, and that's why a lot of people went out there. But as you'll see on the map, it's really not that far away. So the boundaries of what we call the Falcon area are really the southern edge of Blackforest, all the way over to Eastonville Road. Highway 24 is largely considered the southern boundary of Falcon, kind of a little bit south of 24, kind of down to about Judge Ure or Falcon Highway, and then all the way over to where the town proper of Falcon is. And you're going to see it's not really much of a town, although it is growing. And then back up north to this is Woodman Road, and this section right here all gets included in what we call the Falcon area. So as you can imagine, the heart of Falcon is exactly that. It's the town proper of Falcon. It is, there's not an actually specific postal code for Falcon, but it is a legitimate town, and it has grown a lot over the last few years. So now there's kind of any commercial thing you could think of is in Falcon, grocery stores, fast food restaurants, all that stuff is right in Falcon proper now. You don't have to go back to Colorado Springs for anything. When we talk about neighborhoods in Falcon, let's zoom in just a little bit more here, and we'll start kind of on the south edge right by Falcon. So in Falcon proper, this is Woodman Road where it intersects with Highway 24, and this is Meridian Road. So there's kind of three major roads that intersect right in Falcon. This portion right here is commercial. So there's a Walmart, there's a Hope Montessori preschool, Guadalajara Mexican restaurant, just some other commercial development right here. And then this is a little spot of commercial as well, where there's a Safeway as the anchor, and then there's some other, stores kind of in that strip retail space. This portion right here is called Falcon Highlands. So this is a neighborhood that's its own independent neighborhood. It's not tied to anything else. It has its own little metro district for water and things like that. So that's Falcon Highlands. Around Falcon, you have this big area that goes all the way up to Stapleton. And there's a golf course here you can see, Antler Creek Golf Course. So the north part of the golf course is Meridian Ranch, and the south part is Woodland Hills. So Woodland Hills is a pretty large community, and it was one of the original communities in Falcon. So this, some of the homes are going to be late 90s built, all the way up to 2000s. Probably, I would say, Woodland Hills, the very last little bit of it to be built out was up here, maybe around like 2010 or so, something like that, roughly. But all this is Woodland Hills. So Woodland Hills, and then just north of that, you have Meridian Ranch. So the two communities largely run together. There's just this road, Stapleton right here is the dividing line. But they are two very different communities. So Meridian Ranch is a newer community. Some of it was started, the original homes in Meridian Ranch, I would say probably around 2004, like early 2000s. And they're still actually building right now. So here north of the high school, this area is called Rolling Hills, I believe is what they have called this subfiling. So you have new construction and then all the way back to early 2000s in Meridian Ranch. If you go right across Meridian Road, which is this road right here that goes up into Blackforest, right across the road, you have a big area called Paintbrush Hills. And there's a couple subfilings with other names in here, but largely this main area is considered Paintbrush Hills. And then this little spot down here where you can see there's a lot of streets, that's another little small residential area called Bentgrass. So those are the main residential areas, main neighborhoods in the Falcon area. Now, outside of those, you will have kind of in this area over here, you'll have more what would be kind of more rural lots where you might be on 2 to 5 acres, maybe even, upwards of 10 or 20 acres. So there is still a little bit of that rural feel around the Falcon area. But when we talk about the heart of Falcon, it's really kind of these planned neighborhoods right around Falcon proper. All of the Falcon area, it's in District 49 schools. It's actually called the Falcon School District. So everything that we're going to talk about with Falcon is District 49 schools. And, again, like every school district, some of the schools are a little bit better. Some are a little bit, not maybe quite as highly rated. But one thing to think about whenever you look at D49, District 49, is that it's a huge school district. So I'm just going to zoom back out here real quick. So District 49 is all of Falcon, but it actually encompasses all of this area down towards Cimarron Hills and the Sand Creek area. So District 49 is a very large school district. So as you can imagine, the schools down in this area might be a lot different than the ones all the way up here in Falcon proper. So just when you're doing your research, just remember it's a pretty large school district. All right, now what is it that people do around Falcon? If you live in Falcon, what are you doing on a day-to-day basis for recreation? I will say there's not a lot of indoor recreation in Falcon. There's not, some of the stuff that we talked about, like up in Northgate, where we talked about the Air City and the Dart Wars and that kind of stuff. You're not going to find that stuff in Falcon, but you are going to find some outdoor stuff. So you can see this large park right here, just north of the high school. It says Falcon Regional Dog Park. This is actually a huge regional park. There's a dog park there too, but there's a large park here, has several baseball fields, a lot of grass area to go play in. So this is a newer park that's a big draw for the area. And if you go out just a little bit farther, there's this park up here called Homestead Ranch. We're going to talk a little bit more about that, but that's only about probably, I would say, a 10 or 15 minute drive, depending on what part of Falcon you're in. And that's a really cool place because it's, kind of feels like you're in Blackforest a little bit. There's a lot of trees around it. So that's another good place that people take off for recreation if you live in Falcon. There's also a couple places we're going to talk about that are straight east, like the paint mines that you can go to if you're in the Falcon area. But I would say Falcon's probably one of the places in Colorado Springs, as far as broad areas, that you are going to drive a little bit. Now, like I said, you're not driving, 45 minutes to do anything. You can drive north on Meridian Road and you're up in Black Forest, and then you could hit those parks that, they're in that Black Forest area that we talked about. But if you want to get back to the foothills, you are a little bit farther east now. So now you're going to come all the way back Woodman Road through that north part of Colorado Springs to get over to the foothills. So it's a little bit farther out east than some of the other areas we've talked about, but there's still recreation options. I think that's the key, is there's still recreation options that are close to Falcon that you don't feel like you have to drive 45 minutes just to go do anything or just to take the dog for a walk. And a really nice thing about these communities we talked about, Woodman Hills and Meridian Ranch, is that there's a ton of trails around those communities or through those communities. So there's golf course cart paths, which you're not supposed to walk or take your dog on. But then there's also a lot of walking trails as well throughout those neighborhoods. So again, if you want to get outside and kind of get some fresh air, it's not like you're right in the middle of the city and you feel like you got to drive forever just to go get some fresh air. And when we think about businesses in Falcon, I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier, but Falcon, because of its rapid growth recently, has really it's been a lot of chain type restaurants that have come in. So the biggest new retail commercial space there's a car wash there, there's a Panda Express, there's some other chain type restaurants. So when we think about like local businesses in Falcon, it's really kind of more of those home-based businesses that, people again wanted to be a little bit farther outside of Colorado Springs. They run their own business, they run it out of their house, that kind of thing. When you look at the retail space or that commercial space in Falcon, there's not really a ton of small local businesses in the Falcon area. It's kind of more the chain side of things, which, like I said, it's provided a lot more options of what there used to be in Falcon. I actually lived in Falcon for 10 years myself. I lived in Meridian Ranch. Really enjoyed my time there, honestly. But Falcon, like I said, it is drastically different than what it was 10 years ago. So you're just not going to find a lot of those kind of cute, quaint little shops like you might find like downtown Colorado Springs or the west side of Colorado Springs. Some of those areas we're going to talk about here in a little bit. Now, what does it cost to live in Falcon? What do those home prices look like? Historically, Falcon has been kind of the budget buy, or you get a lot more bang for your buck. While you might still get a little bit more bang for your buck, it's not like it was 10, 12, 15 years ago. So right now, the stats are median home price is $550,000. Now, if you kind of remember the other numbers we've talked about, $550,000 is definitely lower than any of the other areas that we've talked about so far. So median price of $550,000, max price of $1 million, and then a minimum price of $320,000. So that $1 million price point, it's probably, I would say, it's going to be a home, and this is not just for this $1 million property, but for anything at that price point or right that close to Falcon. It's going to be a property that's still on a little bit of acreage that hasn't been split up, or in that north side of Meridian Ranch, there's an area called Meridian Ranch Estates, and those are larger 2-acre lots, still part of Meridian Ranch. But like I said, they're larger lots and they're larger semi-custom homes. So you're going to pay a little bit more for those, and you'll see homes like close to that 7-figure or maybe even a little bit over the 7-figure mark in Meridian Ranch Estates. And the home price at $320,000 on the low side, right in tight up against Falcon proper. There are some zero lot line houses where the houses are super close together, kind of a shared driveway situation. And sometimes you'll see those homes come on the market for a really competitive price point. Or also you'll see, if you see other really low price points as you're just kind of looking around for, filtering out houses in the area. If it's another really low price point, there are some modular and like single family or single wide trailers that are on small parcels of land in the surrounding area. And sometimes those will pop up and then they'll kind of come into a search for the Falcon home market as well. The price per square foot, just so we're apples to apples with everything else we've talked about, $181 a square foot. Now, I think that's a number to really kind of think about. Everything else we've talked about is $230, $240, $280 a square foot. So $181 a square foot kind of shows that it can be a little bit more of a budget buy than other areas. Now, we're going to talk about more areas closer into Colorado Springs where that number might even be a little bit less. But for an area that's outside of the city, a little bit more elbow room potentially, that price per square foot is really good. And it just kind of shows that Falcon can still be a little bit of a value buy even today. All right, so what makes Falcon special? Like I said, I lived there for 10 years, so I know Falcon really, really well. And things have changed a little bit, honestly. So when I moved out there, what made it special is a little bit different than what it is today. When I moved out there, it was just, there wasn't a whole lot around you. Those neighborhoods were still being developed and there wasn't all the commercial stuff that there is right now. So you just felt like you were outside of Colorado Springs and really removed from things, which was a good thing if that's what you wanted. Now, if you wanted to move out, you like that price point, so you wanted to be at that price point and for that type of home, some people really didn't like being that far out away from Colorado Springs, but they bought out there because the value was so good. But that's kind of changed a little bit now, and I think what makes it special now is you're still removed from Colorado Springs. When you go out Woodman Road, there's still a gap in development. There's still some open space. Now, like I said, it's rapidly filling in, but there's still a little bit of open space between the Springs and Falcon. So you feel like you're outside the city. You feel like you're removed a little bit, but all those amenities that you want, like grocery stores, places to go out to eat for a quick bite, All that stuff is right in Falcon now, so you don't have to go back to Colorado Springs if you don't want to. And you do get, like I said, I keep using the word budget buy. Like I said, it's not as much as it used to be, but you do still get a little bit larger home for the same price that you would get if you are in one of the newer developments on the northeast side of Colorado Springs, which we're going to talk about here in a little bit. So if you want a little bit bigger home and you want to be at a pretty darn competitive price point, and you don't mind being just a little bit outside of Colorado Springs, but have all the amenities still local, Falcon can be a really great option. All right, the next area, we're gonna be out east of Colorado Springs a good little bit, and we're gonna talk about the Peyton area. Now, the Peyton area, this is one that is also very subjective as far as what that area encompasses. So there is a small little town of Peyton. Now, Peyton has its own zip code and a post office that actually services the Peyton and Falcon, kind of that whole rural area around there. So the post office is in Peyton. But you know what? That's about all that's in Peyton. It's really not even a town. It's kind of just an intersection on Highway 24, and then you have a lot of rural land around it. So what we're going to do is we're going to say everything to the east of Eastonville, all the way up to County Line Road, which is kind of this corner right here, kind of straight over. Now, on the eastern boundary, there's not really an eastern boundary of the Peyton area. Even whenever you're doing a home search, you'll get stuff that's out here in Callahan as well. But you could kind of say somewhere close to Callahan, a little bit before it, is kind of what most people would consider the boundary of the greater Peyton area. And then all the way back down here to Falcon Highway, Judge Orr Road, kind of around in this area, and then back up. So that area is what we're talking about when we say the Peyton area. So Peyton is, like I said, it's mostly going to be rural. So that includes a school district too. It's a rural school district. It's District 23, Peyton School District 23. And it encompasses a very large geographic area because, again, based on number of families, there's just not, the density is much lower out there than what it is when you get back into Colorado Springs. So it's School District 23. There's a couple newer schools right outside of kind of that little Peyton Town Center, which is right here. The schools are kind of right on this corner right here. So District 23 is what the school district is. And, you know, even though you're pretty far removed from the mountains when you're out there, you do have some recreational options. And I think a lot of people think that, oh, well, if I'm going to live in Colorado, but I'm not right on the west side, I'm not going to feel like I'm in Colorado. And I think with Peyton, even being out there, yes, there is a lot of just open grassland and prairie for sure, but there's also some cool little pockets to go check out. So if you go east of Peyton on Highway 24, just when you get just outside of Callahan, this is the Paint Mines Interpretive Park. So this is a cool park that the county has. Everybody around here just calls it the Paint Mines, but it's got a lot of hiking trails around it. It's got some cool sandstone structures and things like that. So Paint Mines is a short little drive to go check out over here. And then if you go north, we kind of talked a little bit about Homestead Ranch earlier. This is a super cool park that has picnic pavilions, stuff for the kids to play on, hiking trails that go kind of through the open grassland, but then also kind of wrap up through the trees into some little bluffs. So Homestead Park is a really cool option as well. And I got to admit, for most people that live out in the Peyton area, when they're thinking about recreation, they're going to be doing it on their own property. You know, they're bombing around on dirt bikes, or, you know, they might be doing some target practice, whatever it is. But most people that live out there, they're probably recreating on their own land, not really so focused on, man, how close is the park that I'm going to go to? But you do still have some options for that. Now, I'm going to tell you, when we talk about neighborhoods, there's not really any, like what you might have in your mind of a neighborhood, like a master planned community. You're not going to find any of that stuff in the Peyton area. What you're going to find is largely 5-acre plus lots. And when I say plus, you know, up to 100-acre plus lots. So you're going to find some huge parcels of land out there, and you're going to find a mix of terrain that's kind of all open grassland, and then also up into the Blackforest, kind of the treed area. And I mentioned that because the one neighborhood that I can think of that's actually like an official neighborhood, it's called Peyton Pines, and it's up here north of Peyton, kind of up in this area. This is Peyton Pines. So these are, again, they're going to be 5-acre plus homes. We have some friends that live out kind of close to that area, and they're on a 40-acre parcel. So it's a wide range, but like I said, largely bigger pieces of property than what you're going to find back in town. Now, when we talk about local businesses, you're probably thinking, okay, well, there's no local businesses in Peyton. And you'd largely be right. But there is one place There's the Coffee Shack Brewing Q, which is right where the intersection is with Peyton Highway and Highway 24. It's actually pretty good. It's like a little drive-through. You can get breakfast burritos, coffee, things like that. They do have a couple tables you can pull up and sit out front. Super rural. I actually go there, not all the time, but fairly often to go, like I said, grab a breakfast burrito, cup of coffee or whatever. So that's really kind of the one local business that I think of when I think of Peyton. Like I said, there's not really a town center, so there's not a whole lot going on there. Okay, as we talk about home values and real estate information for Peyton, I want you to keep this in the back of your mind. The fact is we've talked a lot about the size of lot or acreage that these homes come with. So remember, when we talk about price per square foot and values, these homes are going to be on probably 5 acres or more, a vast majority of them, and some are going to be on very large parcels of land. So a lot of the value is actually in the land, not in the house. There are certainly some beautiful homes out there for sure, but that's where a lot of the value comes from. So those numbers are going to look a lot different than if you were like inside Colorado Springs. So the median home price for the Peyton area, as we've described it here, is $639,000 with a max price of $1.5 million and a minimum price of $300,000. So again, $1.5 million. Probably I would say it's going to be a little bit newer custom home on a pretty decent sized piece of land, maybe a 40-acre parcel with a pretty nice house on it. And that $300,000 sales price, that's probably going to be, like I said, a modular home or, that's on maybe like a 5-acre parcel or something like that, that's out away from the trees, just kind of in the open grassland area. So again, you can see a huge variance in these rural properties for what the values might be. $251 a square foot. So again, when we look at that number, let's take it into consideration that these are all parcels of land that are going to be a little bit bigger than anything else we've talked about largely so far. And the homes out there, they're going to be, because it is all rural, you're going to have pretty much everything's going to be a custom built home. There's not production builders that are building neighborhoods out there. So it's going to be a custom home, and maybe you'll see a lot of modular homes as well, where, they kind of bring in the two halves and stick them together on the lot. You'll see a lot of those out there as well. And those will, be on a 40-acre parcel or something like that with a modular home. That might be maybe like $500,000, depending on where you're at in the Peyton area. So what makes Peyton special? For me, I would say that just the fact that it's so rural, and that doesn't sit with a lot of people. A lot of people, that's not their jam and it's not what they want. But we do have a lot of people that reach out to us that say, hey, I don't want to be close to town. I want to have my space. I want to have my 40 acres. I want to have just my peace and quiet, and I don't mind driving the 30, 45 minutes back into Colorado Springs. If that's kind of what you're looking for, then Peyton could be a great option. The other thing that Peyton offers that I feel like sometimes people kind of forget about is you have amazing mountain views. Now, it's not like right up close to the mountains, but the panoramic view of the Front Range with kind of Pikes Peak right in the center, that's what you get when you're out that far from the mountains. I don't know what the distance is, probably, 30 miles away from the foothills when you get out to Peyton, to the area we're talking about. So out there, yeah, you're not close to the mountains, but you have some amazing panoramic views. And when people look in that area, maybe that's not what drew them there, but that's really what sells a lot of people on Peyton, is just the views that you get, the value that you get for the amount of acreage and the type of home that you can get, as long as you don't mind commuting back into Colorado Springs, or maybe you work from home and you're like, hey, you know what? I just want these views in this nice big house. All right, if you have researched Colorado Springs very much at all, or if you have lived in Colorado Springs for any period of time, you have definitely heard a lot about the next area we're going to talk about. The next area is Briargate. So Briargate is a large area. So when people say Briargate, I feel like especially people that live in Colorado Springs have a few different things in their mind when they picture Briargate, and it kind of depends on how long they've been in Colorado Springs. So the Briargate area, what I'll call the southwest corner of it, is I-25 and Woodman Road. So Woodman Road is a major east-west thoroughfare. So the southern boundary of Briargate is Woodman Road, but it really goes now all the way out to Blackforest Road. And Blackforest Road north up to kind of right about the trees, kind of where the trees of Blackforest start. And then it cuts over, and this is Old Ranch Road, which is the southern boundary of the Northgate area. And then I-25 being the boundary on the west. So this big area right here is Briargate. Now, why I say that, depending on how long people have been in the Springs, you might hear them reference Briargate a little bit different, is a lot of people, when they say Briargate, they think of this kind of this heart of Briargate. So right here at this corner, this is it's where the Chapel Hills Mall is. It's all commercial stuff along. This right here is Academy Boulevard. So all along Academy, this is all commercial stuff. And this was kind of the beginning of the housing development of Briargate. And this development started back in the 80s. So when you're close into North Academy and I-25, this area right here, these houses will be, you'll see a lot of like split levels, 1980s built. But it goes all the way out now, kind of technically, it goes all the way out and encompasses all these neighborhoods out here, which this is Cordera, Wolf Ranch, and Wolf Ranch is just continuing to expand all the way out to Blackforest Road over here right now. And it's actually new filings of it are popping up north of where this little Wolf Lake is, and almost all the way up to the trees now. So this is all being built out as well, but it's all part of the Briargate master plan. So all of this area was planned out, decades ago, that this is what would happen and how the development would go. But a lot of people, and I got to admit, even myself included, when I think of Briargate, I think of this original kind of the heart of Briargate, 90s built houses, not the brand new stuff that's out east a little bit, but it is all technically Briargate. So as you're doing your research, just know you might hear a couple different terms come up or different areas whenever you hear about Briargate. So why do people want to live in Briargate? Well, one of the number one reasons is the school district. It is also in Academy School District 20. And I would say that the vast majority of people that reach out about wanting to live in Briargate or really looking for more information about Briargate, it's because of the schools. Just this Rampart High School, Liberty High School. There's just really good, historically, really good schools in that Briargate area. And it seems like family after family is moving to that area for the school district specifically. Now, you can get a lot of, like I said, we're going to talk about the numbers about this too, but there's a broad range in housing prices and types in the Briargate area. But I want to hit just a couple neighborhoods. And I kind of talked a little bit about this already, but I'll kind of show you on the map. So this part right here, what I kind of call the heart of Briargate, there are a ton of different sub areas within there. There's Charleston Place. There's all these different little sub areas where honestly, you don't really even realize that you're in a different sub area. It's just kind of all Briargate. There might just be like a little stone, sign on the corner of two roads. And that's technically a different sub area, but it all feels very homogenous, I guess I'll say, where, like I said, it's that 90s built, a lot of two-story homes, real similar architecture. So that's kind of this heart of Briargate. When you get up on the north side of it, this area up here, this is Pine Creek. So Pine Creek has a little bit more higher end feel to it. There's a golf course up there. The homes are going to be a little bit more expensive. They're going to be a little bit bigger and just kind of, you'll have a mix of not just production homes, but you'll have some custom homes, semi-custom homes mixed in there as well. And then when you get over here to, this is Highway 21 or Powers Boulevard. When you get on the other side of Powers, this is what I would call the new construction area. So two big neighborhoods you'll hear of over there is Cordera, which is this neighborhood up here. And Cordera is all built out now. There's no more lots to be built. Started in early 2000s and finished up here in the last couple years. In this big neighborhood here, this is Wolf Ranch. Now, you honestly really can't tell a big difference when you're driving between the neighborhoods. They kind of flow together a little bit. This is Research Boulevard right here that is in Wolf Ranch. And then you have this this road right here that kind of goes through across the northern side of Wolf Ranch and kind of separates Cordera and Wolf Ranch a little bit. But I mentioned Wolf Ranch a lot because it's the neighborhood that's still expanding. So like I mentioned earlier, all of this area out here, south of the actual trees of Black Forest up to Black Forest Road, this is all being developed and it's all part of the Wolf Ranch community. So those are the newer neighborhoods. And then down here, this neighborhood is Cumbre Vista. It's a little pocket neighborhood that took off a little bit and then it kind of slowed way down. They didn't build there for a while. And now it's kind of started to come back and it's actually kind of almost connecting with Wolf Ranch a little bit. But those are the major neighborhoods that you're going to find in Briargate. So what do people do in Briargate? Briargate is, even though it's on the far north side of, northern part of Colorado Springs, it still feels, I think, pretty centrally located depending on where you live in Colorado Springs. So if you live in Briargate, you probably have pretty quick access to I-25 if you want to go south. You also have really quick access to Highway 21 or Powers Boulevard. Now, Powers Boulevard, as it goes south, and we're going to talk more about this later as we talk about some other areas, there's a ton of commercial stuff, like anything you could possibly think to do, like movies, wherever you want to go to eat, whatever shopping you want to do, it's all going to be along Powers Boulevard. So if you are kind of more into the, shopping and dining and that kind of stuff for recreation, Briargate is, there's a ton of it really, really close to where you're at. One thing that's actually specific to Briargate is the shops at Briargate. And it's probably, I would say, for lack of a better word, probably kind of the highest end or higher end shopping in Colorado Springs. It's where the Apple store's at. There's an Athleta store up there. There's a Williams-Sonoma, I think, is still up there, if I remember correctly. So those types of stores that you usually kind of find all together, those are all at the Shops at Briargate, which is right up here. So Shops at Briargate, yeah, right there. Shops at Briargate is a good shopping experience. It's an outdoor shopping area, so it's not like an indoor mall. It's kind of a modern outdoor shopping area. Some good restaurants up there too. So definitely one of the highlights for the shopping experience within the Colorado Springs area, Shops at Briargate. Now, if you want to do more outdoor stuff, right in the middle of Briargate is a huge community park right here. This community park, they finished a couple years ago. It's a huge draw. There's huge athletic field, big pavilions, pickleball courts, tennis courts, kind of all that, anything you can want to do. There's a little splash pad in the summertime out there as well for little kids. So this is a big draw for the Briargate area. And you can see how big that park is as you kind of look at the overall map of Briargate. So there's also, this is Rampart Park down here, another large park right in the heart of Briargate. But again, just like the rest of a lot of Colorado Springs is, you don't have to drive very far to get to kind of like feel like you're in a different world, honestly. So you can drive up Union and go across 21 Powers Boulevard and then scoot right up into Blackforest. And here's Blackforest Regional Park. So this is maybe 10 minutes between these two parks right here. So super close to the parks that are in Blackforest. And then also, remember I mentioned that Woodman Road is the southern boundary of Briargate. You can go across Woodman Road, go underneath I-25, and then all of a sudden you're right over here in Ute Valley Park and super close to Blodgett Open Space as well. So kind of all that stuff on the foothills, hiking, climbing. If you live in Briargate, you're maybe 10 or 15 minutes away from it. So it's not as if you have to drive 40 minutes, even though you're in the middle of what kind of just, it is the textbook definition of a subdivision. Big parks within Briargate and super close proximity to just the other stuff that you want to do in Colorado Springs, honestly. So as we talk about the real estate in Briargate, I want you to keep in mind something that I mentioned earlier, and that's that it varies between 1980s built, which just at that time, homes were a little bit smaller than what they are now, typically, all the way up to brand new construction in that Cordero and Wolf Ranch neighborhoods that we talked about. Those neighborhoods have some really nice houses. There's some very nice builders that build in those areas. So you're going to see a very wide spectrum of house prices and house style when you look at the broad Briargate area. So statistically, median price in Briargate, $570,000. Max price, $1.6 million. And then the minimum price of $263,000. So the $263,000, definitely a townhome. There's a number of townhome complexes, if you will, throughout the Briargate area. So I'm sure that was a townhome. And then that max price of $1.6 million is likely a property that is new construction and kind of on the edge of the Briargate area, maybe up in the Pine Creek area or right kind of on the side of Cordero, one of those areas where there might have been a little bit of an acreage lot. There's a little area called Kettle Creek. I got to show you this on the map because it's a cool little area as well. So Kettle Creek is this area I think this is actually Kettle Creek right here that goes underneath Old Ranch Road. So this area up here, there's actually lots. You kind of feel like you're in Colorado, like legitimately in Colorado Springs, but there will be 1-2 acre lots in this Kettle Creek area, kind of right through here. So you'll actually find some new construction, some custom homes that are built in that area that'll definitely be a little bit higher price point than you'll see anywhere else in Briargate. And then I don't want to forget to mention also the price per square foot, $207 per square foot. So from everything we've kind of looked at, other than that Falcon area, Briargate, surprisingly enough, is becoming a little bit better value than what it used to be. It used to seem like you almost overpaid for Briargate because of the name associated with it and the fact that it was School District 20. I feel like now that the costs have kind of or rather that the homes have gotten a little bit older now, and there's enough new construction also in good areas that the demand is kind of slightly coming away from Briargate a little bit. And those prices they're just not maybe as appreciating as fast as what they used to historically. And just the age of the homes, a lot of these homes, like I said, if they're built in the 80s or 90s, you'll find a lot of them up there that not much has been done to since then. Now, you'll certainly find some that have been fully remodeled. We have some clients buying in the Briargate area right now, and the house is pretty much the whole thing has been remodeled since it was built. So it looks largely like a new home inside, but you will also find a lot of those homes that have not been remodeled or really updated at all. And those will be on the lower end of that price point. And that kind of not skews, but just kind of helps determine that price per square foot and makes it look a little bit better in Briargate than if you were to just look at the newer homes over in that Cordera and Wolf Ranch area. And the last thing that I was going to mention on the homes in the real estate portion of Briargate is there's a lot of houses in there, just the density. This is going to be the most densely populated area that we've talked about so far. So it's densely populated, and there's a lot of sales that happen there. There's about an average of 100 sales a month that happen in the Briargate area. So there's a lot of turnover just because there's a lot of families moving in and out. There's a big draw to be in the Briargate area if you work on the Air Force Academy as well, which I think kind of helps with that turnover ratio a little bit. But there are a lot of sales that take place in Briargate. So I say all that to say that if you have a lot of interest in that area and you're not seeing anything that you like right now, there's probably a pretty good chance something's going to come on the market if you really want to be in the Briargate area, just because of the number of sales that take place. And what makes Briargate unique and special? I think we've kind of talked about a lot of these, but just to kind of summarize a little bit, it's District 20 schools. That's not a unique thing, but it's definitely special to the area and it's a big draw to the area. It's what kind of keeps the demand for Briargate high right now. There's a broad range of housing. There's not many places in town. I can't honestly think of another one that has so many housing options across such a wide range. So again, 1980s, maybe original, all the way up to brand new construction still being built right now. So, and to have a lot of different options across that range. So a lot of options for housing, and then also really just commute to Colorado Springs and just different parts of Colorado Springs, because Powers Boulevard, the way I'll show you on the map here, the way it kind of curves in as it goes to the north, and I-25 kind of curves in, the distance between those two major arteries isn't that great. And then as you go down Powers Boulevard, Highway 21, you can access everything on the east side of Colorado Springs, or down I-25 to access everything on the west side of Colorado Springs. So the overall commute and accessibility from Briargate to the rest of Colorado Springs is pretty unique, just because of the way the major arteries kind of close in on it a little bit. So whether you're working in town or you're working on the north end or way over on the east side of town off Powers Boulevard, your commute time is not going to be that bad from Briargate. We're going to work our way west now to some areas of Colorado Springs that my gut tells me when people think of Colorado Springs and they say, man, I'm moving to Colorado Springs, these are probably some of the areas that you're thinking about. So the next one we're going to talk about is Northwest Colorado Springs. So Northwest Colorado Springs, as you probably guessed, is on the northwest part of town. So the boundaries for Northwest Colorado Springs are, this is Woodman Road right here that we talked about earlier. So it's going to go up to the southern boundary of the Air Force Academy. So up here, this is all Air Force Academy. So up to here. And then for the western boundary, it really just kind of goes over to where it turns into National Forest land. So kind of just up into the foothills a little bit. Comes straight south from there down to Garden of the Gods Road, which is this road right here, and then back up 25. So this spot right here is Northwest Colorado Springs. So Northwest Colorado Springs, the major neighborhoods in the area are, as we start out here at Woodman Road and I-25, this big area right here that is very, very popular is Rock Rimmon. So this is Woodman Road, and it's called Woodman Valley as it kind of turns up this way. This turns into Rock Rimmon from Woodman, and this is Woodman Valley back in here. And it is exactly that. So this, you're up on a bluff, and then this is kind of a higher area of terrain here. So you kind of go back this valley, and then it opens up into this space back here. And this is all kind of like on the slope of the foothills. And this area up here is called Peregrine. So sometimes you'll see it still combined with Rock Rimmon, but it is a little bit different area. This is going to be what I would say larger, nicer homes. There's certainly some beautiful homes in the Rock Rimmon area for sure. But this bluff up here, kind of this foot on the edge of the foothills, these are going to be custom, semi-custom homes. They're going to be large homes, and they're going to be a little bit higher price point. So this is Peregrine. And this road right here is Centennial Boulevard. So as you work your way south down Centennial, again, rock rimming over here, this area over here is Mountain Shadows. So Mountain Shadows right here. This big green spot, Ute Valley Park, and there's a housing development that kind of butts right up to Ute Valley Park. Super cool area right here. And then this right along Garden of the Gods Road, this is mostly all commercial space, so commercial on both sides of Garden of the Gods Road. And then there's a valley that kind of comes back here behind where you guys see on the map where it says Costco right there. That's on the other side of I-25, but on this side, there's a valley that comes back here, and it's called Pope's Valley, and Pope's Bluff is up on the bluff. So there's some beautiful homes that sit way up high on this bluff, and you've got amazing views of Colorado Springs from this side of the bluff, and then from this side of the bluff, you have some amazing views back towards Pikes Peak to the southwest. So those are the major neighborhoods within the northwest part of Colorado Springs. School districts for this northwest area, it's going to be two. It's going to be School District 20 and then also School District 11, which is one we haven't talked about yet. School District 11 is the largest school district in the Colorado Springs area. It encompasses much of the west side and downtown Colorado Springs area. And the school district line, it's not exactly Centennial, but essentially a lot of this over here is 11, and then a lot of this up here is 20. So Rock Rimmon and Peregrine are D20. Again, we've talked about that draw for School District 20, so that is a draw for people to be in the Rock Rimmon area as well. So 2 school districts in this northwest part of Colorado Springs. Now, this is where it gets a little bit more exciting to talk about recreation, I think, versus some of just the other areas that are more, they just feel more subdivision-y, if you will, that we've talked about. So northwest Colorado Springs, I think people largely move there because of the recreation. So you are right up against the foothills. Your access to national forest land is literally right out your back door. So right here, Blodgett Open Space. This is a wonderful open space that you can access right off of Centennial in Peregrine right here. There's a nice parking lot there. There's a trail that goes up to the top of Blodgett Peak. That's super popular. And Ute Valley Park, even though Ute Valley Park is really surrounded by houses and development, once you get in Ute Valley Park, once you start to walk south through the park a little bit, you feel like you're in the middle of the mountains. There's a huge bluff on one side. You're kind of down in this little valley. It's pine trees, rock outcroppings. It's a beautiful park, and it's right in the middle of this northwest area in Colorado Springs. So between that open space and Ute Valley Park, everything you probably want to do is literally right in your backyard. But if you want to do something maybe a little bit different or explore a little bit bigger area, you're no more than 5 to 10 minutes from Garden of the Gods. So you come down Centennial and get on 30th Street, 31st, and you come right down to Garden of the Gods. So Garden of the Gods, huge city park. Don't worry, we're going to talk more about that later. But just know that if you're in northwest Colorado Springs, you're only probably about 5 or 10 minutes from Garden of the Gods, depending on exactly what part of town or what part of the area you're in. And something else that from the recreation standpoint is really nice about these west side communities or west side areas we're going to talk about is access to the mountains. So if you're way out in Falcon or Peyton, you've got a 30-minute drive across town to get down to Highway 24, which is this road right here, that goes up into the mountains and is really kind of your main access point to get to ski areas, to big mountain recreation, things like that. So being on the west side of Colorado Springs just means faster access deep into the Colorado Rockies. So not just the Front Range foothills, but deep into the mountains. Like I said, some of those other recreational things a lot of people are coming to Colorado to do, you're just a lot closer to get to those things when you're on the west side of town. Now, when I think about the northwest area of town, I really don't think about a ton of just cool local businesses. There's some that are kind of mixed in there probably, but I'll be honest, I really don't go to any of them a lot. But there are 2 that I definitely want to throw a mention out here too, and they're kind of right on the edge of what we would call northwest and west side. And that is Josh and John's Ice Cream, which is over on the kind of like that far side of Centennial Boulevard, or in Garden of the Gods, and then also Trinity Brewing. Both of those 2 places, if you're in that area, you should check out both of them. Those are the 2 local businesses that when I'm in that part of town, I'm probably going to go check out. So now let's talk about the housing situation in this part of town. So statistically, let's cover this real quick. Median price, $570,000. So that's actually A lot lower than some of these other areas that we've talked about, but you got to remember there's a broad range of housing types in Northwest Colorado Springs. So max price of $2 million and a minimum price of $180,000. Now again, these are from the last 6 months is what this data is from. So it gives you an idea that there's a huge range from $180,000 to $2 million. $2 million, probably up in the Peregrine area, I would say. Like I said, those are the more expensive custom style homes up there. And there's also a number of townhome areas throughout the northwest part of town where that $180,000 sale, condo, townhome, that kind of product is probably what that is. I'm willing to bet for sure. And price per square foot, $216 a foot. So that's, of everything we've kind of started to look at on the north end of Colorado Springs, that's, towards the lower end of it. But again, I really think it's because there's such a broad range of housing products out there, if you will, as far as age, condition, and size. So you're going to see a wide variance in the northwest part of town. You're going to see stuff from the 80s and 90s, maybe even a little bit of the late 70s, I would say, all the way up to almost new construction on some of those custom and semi-custom lots. There's some homes in that Woodman Valley area that have been built fairly recently. But you're going to see a lot of that stuff that's 80s, 90s built. It's like a lot of Colorado Springs, just when a lot of development happened in a lot of different parts of town. So you're going to see a lot of homes around that price point, and you're also going to, around that age. And you're also going to see, like I mentioned, condition. There's going to be a broad variance in condition of stuff that's pretty darn original and really hasn't been updated, all the way up to stuff that's been fully remodeled. And obviously you're going to pay a lot more for that. But it gives you an idea that you don't have to be at a 7-figure purchase price to be in the Rock Rimmon in Peregrine, that northwest part of town. But it is definitely, compared to some other parts of town we're going to talk about, it is a little bit more expensive, but a lot of people think it's worth it just for those recreational reasons that we talked about earlier. And that really kind of leads me to what makes this part of town special. It's the outdoor stuff. 100% it's the outdoor stuff. It is lodged open space. It's trails and parks all over the place. The foothills are right outside your back door, and you just feel like you're in Colorado when you're in the northwest part of town. All right, now we are going to head west of Colorado Springs, and we're going to go up Highway 24, up Ute Pass to Woodland Park. So the next area, and we're going to kind of combine two areas here, is Ute Pass and Woodland Park. So those two areas, the reason we're going to combine them, honestly, is that Ute Pass, it's a pretty skinny area. If you look at the map, it's a big chunk of land, but most of that is national forest. So as far as, where things are to do and live and things like that, it's a pretty skinny area. So let me show this area to you, kind of what it's going to look like, the area that we're going to talk about. So we're going to start right outside of Manitou Springs. That's a separate area. We're going to talk about that one too, don't worry. But right outside of Manitou Springs, this area that goes up Highway 24, it goes up Ute Pass, and it goes all the way up to Woodland Park. Now the areas, or rather I guess you could call them towns or small little municipalities, as you go up Highway 24 are Cascade, Chipeta Park, and Green Mountain Falls. So those are 3 little municipalities, and they're really, really small. It's not like it's a big town or anything. They're like a little tiny town center in some of them. But those are really kind of the areas as you go up the pass. Again, this is a super skinny canyon, basically, that you're going up until you get up to Woodland Park. So on the map that's in our relocation packet, that Ute area goes all the way up here and all the way down here. Like I said, this is all national forest land up here, and this is all national forest land down here as you get down to Pikes Peak. Now, Woodland Park, we're gonna go north of Woodland Park a little ways. Again, all national forest up here. When we talk about Woodland Park, it's a very broad area that you'll hear people talk about. And you gotta kind of say, what do you really mean by Woodland Park? Because there is the town proper of Woodland Park for sure. And then there's kind of this greater Woodland Park area. I really consider Woodland Park the downtown area. And then this is Rampart Range Road that goes all the way north up towards Castle Rock and Deckers. So kind of from there, Manitou Lake is kind of where I feel is kind of on the north end of it. And you just kind of start to transition into just more rural area. And then almost over to Divide. Divide is its own separate area, very, very small as well. But we're going to talk about this area right here when we consider Woodland Park. All right, so let's get into it here. So when we say neighborhoods in those areas, it's really not like you have these big planned subdivisions, right? I kind of mentioned the little towns that you have as you go up the pass, past Manitou Springs. And outside of like up on the side of the mountain, literally up on the side of the mountain here, outside of Cascade, Chipeta Park, and Green Mountain Falls, you'll see some custom and semi-custom homes, and they just kind of dot the hillside as you're driving up the pass. Those homes, you'll find homes in there that were built in the late 1800s, like little cabins kind of down close to the stream by the creek. And then you'll find beautiful multi-million-dollar custom homes that have been built within the last 10 years. You definitely see more housing on the south side of the valley than what you do on the north side. There are some homes on the north side, but again, there's not a lot of residential stuff happening as you go up the pass. It's really, you leave Colorado Springs, Manitou Springs, and then you pop up into Woodland Park. So in Woodland Park, there are certainly areas that are what I would call kind of planned communities, but they don't all necessarily have like their own really specific or unique name to go with them. So as we zoom in on Woodland Park, you can see on the south side of Woodland Park, this is all residential housing area down in here. And then on the north side as well, this is a big residential area as well, right on up against Woodland Park. Now, a lot of the areas, a lot of the residences outside and around Woodland Park are, again, this is mountain rural living. So these are properties that are on acreage, maybe 3/4 of an acre, all the way up to, as you get closer to Divide or north of Woodland Park, you might have properties that are several or multiple hundreds of acres. So as you can kind of look at some of these roads outside of Woodland Park, and again, this is in the mountains. Woodland Park is definitely the closest true mountain town to Colorado Springs. So Woodland Park sits over 8,000 feet. You feel like you're in the mountains, like you legitimately are in a mountain town. You're staring at the backside of Pikes Peak or the north side of Pikes Peak. So it is mountain living. So when you think about how do you get to these houses and what the roads are like, it's probably exactly what you picture in your head right now. They're twisty, turny, skinny roads that kind of access all these different areas. But it gives you a lot of privacy, and that's honestly why a lot of people like Woodland Park, is you get this true mountain living and privacy that you don't maybe get when you're down in Colorado Springs. Now, just like some other areas that we've talked about or going to talk about, there's multiple school districts that kind of overlay these areas. So when you're going up the pass, Cascade, Chipeta Park, Green Mountain Falls, those are actually in Manitou School District. It's District 14. So Manitou School District is what those schools are part of, and the high school is down in Manitou Springs proper. Then when you get up the pass and you get to Woodland Park is its own school district. So it's Woodland Park School District, it's District RE2. So those school districts, again, do your research. I don't know, I'll be honest, I don't know anybody that is moving to either one of these areas specifically because of the schools. I think that some people probably love them, some people maybe don't love them, I don't know, but we don't get a lot of folks that are moving here specifically for the school districts in these areas. People that are moving to these areas, they're moving there for the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the recreation opportunities. So again, Woodland Park is a mountain town. So when you walk out your back door, you feel like you're in the middle of the mountains because you are. So all of the recreation, or a vast, vast majority of the recreation when it comes to Woodland Park, is all about the outdoors. There's hunting right outside of the city limits of Woodland Park. I've hunted elk and deer right outside of Woodland Park. You can climb Pikes Peak if you want to. You can access the backside of Pikes Peak, or you can go up the front side. You can go up through the crags on the backside. All those trails that lead to the top of Pikes Peak, the 14,000-foot peak you're staring at, right outside your back door if you live in Woodland Park. If you go north a little bit, you go up towards Deckers, you can do some pretty cool kayaking up there. If you go west just a little bit, you get into the South Park area, and then before you know it, you're actually all the way over into Breckenridge. So just the access for outdoor activities is really what people are looking for when they move to Woodland Park. They want to be out on the trails. They want to be, hanging out at the park with their family. So in Woodland Park, there is a park downtown. That's a pretty cool it's Memorial Park right here, downtown Woodland Park. So you'll see a lot of families out there just hanging out. That's kind of just the general theme with Woodland Park, is outdoor recreation. All right, now while I'm zoomed in on the map here, I want to show you guys a couple, or really one local business. I want to show you two, but one I got to talk about first. Anybody that's driven through Woodland Park, especially if you've driven through when you're getting ready you're headed to go skiing, it's like 5 in the morning or 6 in the morning, and you got to make it to Summit County to go skiing, I can almost guarantee that everybody is going to stop at the Donut Mill. So the Donut Mill has been in Woodland Park, I don't know, it's been there at least 20 years because that's how long I've been here, but I'm sure it's been there a whole lot longer than that. It is just a staple of downtown Woodland Park. And it's exactly that. It's a little donut shop with coffee, but it's right on Highway 24 that cuts right through Woodland Park. So pretty much anybody that's going through Woodland Park that knows about the donut mill, it's got to swing in there, grab some food. So that's one of the local businesses, if you will, that I definitely like to partake of whenever I'm up there. And then the other business that I want to show you guys, because I think this is just super cool and unique, but we're actually going to go back down the pass now. And this is North Pole. So North Pole is right where the turnoff is to go up to Pikes Peak. So Pikes Peak Highway, as you can imagine, accesses Pikes Peak. And right here is North Pole, Santa's workshop. So North Pole is just, again, it's a place that's been there forever, but it's exactly that. It's North Pole, so it's great to go in the wintertime, Christmas time. They have some outdoor stuff as well, but it's just kind of one of those cool local traditions to definitely go check out if you're in the area, especially if it's at that time of year. So the North Pole, it's right on Pikes Peak Highway, and that's another thing I want to highlight too on the recreation side of things is that the drive to go up to the top of Pikes Peak is right here off of Highway 24. You can drive all the way up to the top of Pikes Peak. You go past the reservoirs that are up there. So Donut Mill, downtown Woodland Park, North Pole, right at the cutoff for the Pikes Peak Highway, and the highway itself to go straight up to the top of Pikes Peak. And at the top of Pikes Peak, 2 years ago, I think it is now, built a new Summit House up there. So now there's a really nice facility up top with a ton of, the views up there obviously are amazing, but definitely take the trip up Pikes Peak if you make it into town. All right, so housing in Woodland Park. There are definitely housing options for sure, but just keep in mind that there's not as many houses in Woodland Park and up the pass as what there are in Colorado Springs. That should seem pretty obvious, hopefully. So when we look at the housing in Woodland Park, just like a lot of areas I've been talking about, but to a larger degree, it's extremely varied. So the median home price in Woodland Park, $545,000. Max price, $2.5 million, and minimum price of $125,000. And the average square foot price, $280 a square foot. So that square footage price is a lot higher than some of the parts that we looked at in Colorado Springs proper, those north neighborhoods in Colorado Springs. But again, Woodland Park, it's mountain living. So a lot of the residences are outside of Woodland Park and on some acreage. So those larger parcels of land, especially in the mountains, there's a big value to them. And that's going to make the home price higher, which then in turn makes that per square foot price a lot higher. But a lot of that cost is really due to the larger parcels of land. And when we talk about a wide range of homes, it literally is that. We were talking about, think about the craziest, beautiful custom log home you could find on 50 acres, all the way down to a tiny little condo in the heart of Woodland Park. So there's every type of housing you're going to find around there, but there's not a lot of options. There's not a ton of stuff that comes up for sale. There's certainly things that, they get transacted every month in Woodland Park, but it's not the number of transactions that you see down in Colorado Springs. So prices are largely going to be all over the place, and your options are going to be a lot more limited. So if you kind of like the idea of potentially living in Woodland Park, you probably want to look into that and maybe start a little bit sooner than you would if you're going to be in Colorado Springs, because it might take you a little bit of time to find just the right place in Woodland Park. I don't even think I really have to talk to this point a whole lot, but what makes Woodland Park special? It's freaking mountain town. That's what it is. You're 20 minutes from Colorado Springs, but you're in the middle of the mountains. Like I said, you're looking at Pikes Peak every single day. You are surrounded by mountains and forest. It's an awesome, quaint little town. And there's just nothing else like it anywhere close to Colorado Springs. The only other, to get something even similar to it, you'd have to drive 2 hours north to get up west of Denver to Evergreen, Bailey area. So to have something so cool as Woodland Park, a true mountain town, right by Colorado Springs, a major metropolitan area, it's pretty freaking cool. And I can definitely see why a lot of people reach out to us and want to move to Woodland Park. Let's talk about the west side of Colorado Springs. You may have heard Westside is the best side. It's very, very common to hear people around here say that. And I don't know, there's a lot of truth to that. So when I first moved to Colorado Springs back in 2005, it's been a long time ago, I lived in the area we're going to talk about right now, the west portion of Colorado Springs. So the reason people love it, it's a lot of the same stuff about Northwest Colorado Springs is you're right up against the foothills. So you feel like Colorado Springs. Like you feel like probably what you picture in your mind when you think of Colorado Springs. So Pikes Peak is kind of right there in your face. You're right up against Garden of the Gods. There's a ton of outdoor recreational stuff to do. So let me show you the boundary of the west side of Colorado Springs. So I'm going to zoom in just a little bit here on the west side. The northern boundary is going to be Garden of the Gods. So this right here is Garden of the Gods Road, not the park. Garden of the Gods Road right here. And then the western boundary it's a little bit nebulous, but it's kind of, throughout Garden of the Gods and then back down to include Pleasant Valley, which is a little neighborhood outside of Garden of the Gods, and then kind of down to Uinta, which is right in this area, and then back up I-25. So kind of this section right here is what we're talking about when we say the west side of Colorado Springs. Now, when we talk about neighborhoods in this area, you're going to see I feel like I've said this a lot in this video, but you're going to see a wide variance in types of homes. So right off of I-25 in Garden of the Gods is a neighborhood called Holland Park. Holland Park mostly built in the 60s roughly. So you're going to see a lot of ranch homes on a basement, 2,000 square feet, one-car garage, some split levels were built a little bit later. Just some kind of just classic Americana homes, if you will. Neighborhood is super popular because, again, it's a great location being on the west side of Colorado Springs, but it's a pretty good price point too. It's hard to say entry price point these days, but for Colorado Springs, it's a good balance between being a decent entry-ish price point, but being on the west side of town. So this is Holland Park right here. Now, as we go to a little bit to the west of that, you'll see there's kind of a big area here where it doesn't look like there's any housing. Well, there is. This right here is Mesa Road. So all of this where you see this Kissing Camels golf course, this all sits up high on the bluff. So this is Kissing Camels, the community. There's a golf course in there. It's a private gated community. Very, very nice, exclusive community. There are townhomes, expensive townhomes, new construction, and then all the way up to custom homes that are, multiple multi-million-dollar homes. So this is the Kissing Camels area. Now on Mesa, one thing it's just beautiful about this area. Mesa Road is right up on the edge of the mesa, and then it drops off really sharp down to 30th Street, which is right down here. So everything on the edge of this mesa, so on the west side of Mesa Road, it almost sits on the edge of this bluff. And the view is it's ridiculously amazing. It's like quintessential Colorado Springs view. You're just staring down and out at Garden of the Gods and then Pikes Peak behind that. So these homes up here, custom, semi-custom homes, pretty darn expensive price point. But this right here is where the Garden of the Gods Country Club is, and that's kind of what this area is known as here. I mentioned Pleasant Valley. So again, we drop off. So this is down the front of a bluff. Now we're kind of down in the valley. This is Pleasant Valley right here. And then also there are homes kind of mixed in amongst Garden of the Gods, or like right up on the edge of Garden of the Gods. So Pleasant Valley, this area is from the house style and time build. It's similar to Holland Park. There's always a lot bigger demand for it because, again, you're right next to Garden of the Gods, and you feel like you're right next to Garden of the Gods in Pleasant Valley. And then on this south side of Garden of the Gods and behind Garden of the Gods, this is another gated community. It's called Cedar Heights. So Cedar Heights goes all the way up here. We can kind of see this spaghetti bowl of roads because, again, you're twisting up into the mountains. And this road right here takes you up to Rampart Range. This road right here does. It's not open all year long, but when it's open, it takes you up there. So this area right here, Cedar Heights, gated community, expensive homes. And then as we kind of work our way back to the east through this west area, go past Pleasant Valley. Now we're going to get into kind of this area. It's off of 19th Street. It's kind of down in a little bit of a bowl because Mesa's up high, and then this area's up high. So it's kind of a little bit of a bowl right here. In this area right here, I don't really have a neighborhood name for it, but it's just another pocket of homes that are kind of around again. I feel like they're that 70s, 60s, 70s build. Again, this is kind of a little bit older part of Colorado Springs as far as developed subdivisions go. So you've got this neighborhood right here, that housing area. And then back up on Mesa. So again, we're back up on the top of the Mesa now. You have homes on both sides of Mesa Road. The ones that back to the west, so the ones that are on this west side of Mesa, amazing views of Pikes Peak and the foothills. And then the ones that are on the east side of Mesa, really, really awesome city views of Colorado Springs. So those are the major neighborhoods within the west area. Now, I do also want to mention, right, this intersection right here is Fillmore and Centennial. And this is all up on the Mesa. So you're kind of looking down, like Colorado Springs is way down below, and then it drops off this way too. So up on this Mesa, where those two roads intersect, there's a lot of new development. So there's multiple home builders that are building new homes up there and a lot of townhomes. So you get a townhome at a pretty good price, you know, $500,000 give or take, but you are on the west side of town and you have some pretty amazing views depending on how the specific unit's laid out. So that's something that's unique to this area because there's not a lot of new construction that you're going to see on the west side of town. All right, so school districts for the west area, it's all District 11. So School District 11, again, it's the largest school district in Colorado Springs, and everything within this west area is District 11. Again, go do your research about it. I wouldn't say we have anybody that's wanting to move to the area specifically for the school district, but that's really not why you're moving to this part of town. You're kind of moving there for some other reasons, and you can check out District 11 and what those specific schools, how they're rated, not just the district, but the specific schools that service this area. Now, like most areas on the western side of Colorado Springs, this area is no different. You are all about outdoor recreation probably if you want to live in this part of town. So the biggest thing, obviously everybody knows it, is Garden of the Gods Park. Garden of the Gods, it's actually a Colorado Springs city park, but it's one of the biggest attractions in the state of Colorado, and honestly, it's one of the biggest tourist attractions in the Rocky Mountains. It's got just some awesome rock formations. In the summertime, it is chaos over there. It's a zoo, honestly, is what it is. So if you're coming in the summertime, try to kind of plan your trip a little bit so maybe you get there super early in the morning because it gets super, super busy in the summertime. Off season, it's not nearly as bad. There's a ton of hiking trails, running trails. There's a guide service that you can take horseback trips through Garden of the Gods. There's pre-bolted rock routes that you can climb. You have to get a permit for it, but you can climb in Garden of the Gods as well. And it's just one of the most beautiful scenic places I think I've ever been, honestly. The sandstone has been uplifted. It's kind of part of what we call the hogbacks along the Colorado Front Range. And it's an amazing park, and it's such a huge draw for a reason. So if you live on the west side of town, you're probably going to Garden of the Gods to go for a run, to go for a walk, whatever it is. You're going to get out and enjoy nature a lot. That is by far the biggest draw for this area of Colorado Springs. Now, on that same vein of recreation, while Garden of the Gods might be the large park that's in this area, you're right down the road. You're 5 minutes from Ute Valley Park, which we talked about in the northwest part of town. You're super close to Old Colorado City if you want to kind of go walk the cool shops of Old Colorado City, which we're going to talk more about too. And if you want to go get in the mountains, like get up to Woodland Park or up on Pikes Peak, you're super, super close. You're just going to go right down the Mesa. You're going to, off the front of the Mesa, you're going to pop down to Old Colorado City, jump on Highway 24, and shoot up to the mountains. So just the proximity to get to things recreationally outside is by far the biggest draw to the west side of town. It's why I moved there. When I first came to Colorado Springs, I lived in Holland Park. I still own that home in Holland Park. I think it's a great part of town. And when I moved here and I was thinking of Colorado Springs, that's what I thought of, and that's where I wanted to live. So how much does it take to live on the west side of town? So statistically, median price, $600,000. So a little bit above the citywide average or median for sure, but $600,000. Max price, this is where we see a big difference. Max price of $4 million and a minimum or low price of $196,000. Again, this is the last 6 months we're talking about here. So $4 million sale, Kissing Camels, Garden of the Gods Club, up on top of that Mesa, looking at just ridiculous views of Garden of the Gods and Pikes Peak. And then $196,000, it's going to be an older townhome or condo, probably kind of down on the south edge of the area that we're talking about, closer to Old Colorado City, or maybe even one of the places off of Centennial and that Holland Park area we talked about. There are some multi-family units in there that are starting to be sold, like individual units instead of the whole building. So it could be a sale over there that you'd see at that price point. So definitely a huge variation in price point, and price per square foot, about $254 per square foot. So per square foot, it's a little bit less than what it is up on the far north end. But remember, a lot of those houses had larger lots associated with them. Whereas on the west side, this area we're talking about, there's really not many large lots. It's mostly kind of your normal 60, 70 subdivision size lots. So bigger lots than what you see in brand new subdivisions for the most part, but these aren't, you know, half to an acre size lots. They're still subdivision planned development size lots. So $254 a square foot to live on the west side, I don't know. I think it might be worth it. But let's talk about just what makes it special, because I think that's what you got to know to really decide if it's worth it or not. And I think we kind of already talked about it. It's the outdoor stuff. It's the fact that you're staring out your window and Pikes Peak is right in your face. You go 5 minutes down the road and you're in Garden of the Gods. People travel from across the country and take family vacations of 2 weeks just to see Garden of the Gods, and it's 5 minutes out your back door. So the outdoor recreation, the outdoor beauty, that's why people want to live on the west side of Colorado Springs. That was a lot of information about Colorado Springs, and that was only part 1. Next video, we're gonna do part 2, and we're gonna go over all the rest of the areas of the greater Colorado Springs market. Now, if you are looking for information about Colorado Springs, hopefully this has been valuable to you, but let me also tell you, that's what our whole channel is about. So if you're looking to find out more about Colorado Springs, or to eat, work, live, play, whatever it is, definitely take the time to subscribe to the channel. And we also have a ton of neighborhood tours on our channel. So if while you listen to the video today, you're like, hey, I kind of like that area, I think, definitely take the time, check out the channel, hit up some of those area tours. There's an ultimate driving tour where we drive all over Colorado Springs. So definitely watch the other videos, get to know Colorado Springs, and reach out with any questions you have.